So I'll have a look now at a couple of sums and work out which formula is best to use. So for the first one, we're finding the sum of 10 terms for the arithmetic sequence 5, 12, 19, 26. Now, just as a heads up for you, if you, in a test, if you calculated the first 10 terms, worked out what they all were, and then added it up manually, you wouldn't get full marks. You really would only get 1 mark for the correct answer. You'd lose lots of marks for using, not using the rule. So we need to use the rule. They all involve T1 or D or N or so on. So let's start by calculating or finding T1, and that's 5. D is 5 plus 7 is 12, plus 7 is 19, plus 7. So D is 7. We've got our first term, we've got our D, we've got our N, which is equal to 10. So we're going to use the, I think it's the second version of the rule that we looked at. We'll use a rule, write the rule. So S to the nth term is N outside of 2 lots of T1 plus N minus 1 lots of D, all divided by 2. Then we sub in our values. So sum to 10 is 10 outside of 2 lots of 5 plus 10 minus 1 lots of 7 divided by 2. That 2 is going to cancel with that 10 to give us 5. So it's going to be 5 outside of 2 times 5 is 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 times 7 is 63. 63 and 10 is 73. So 5 times 73, which is 365. So S to 10 is 365. In this next one, we've got our term 1. We don't know how many terms we've got to 410, so we don't know if it's the 20th term, the 50th term, the 100th term. So we need to work out, regardless of which rule we're using, we need to work out what that N is because N appears in the rule. There's a couple of different ways of doing it. The first one I think is probably the easiest, which is this one. Our common difference is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, so D is 2. Our first term is also 2, so we write our general term. Tn is A plus N minus 1 lots of D, so A is 2 plus N minus 1 lots of also 2, which is 2 plus 2n minus 2. These cancel, and we're left with Tn is simply 2n. We know that the term that we're interested in is 410, so that's got to be 2 times something, and we get is 205. So now it doesn't matter terribly much which one you use. T1 is 2, Tn is 410, and N is 205 we've just worked out. So the sum to 205 is, or in fact we'll do it with the general form first, N, it's N on 2 times T1 plus Tn, which is 205 divided by 2, T1 is 2 plus Tn is 410. Put that into your calculator and out comes 42,230. So the sum, I should have labelled that, the sum to 205 terms is 42,230. In this next question, it's not super easy to apply any one of the given particular rules. We don't know how many terms we've got, and we don't know what our last term is because we don't know where the last term is, what number it is. So we're going to have to work in very general terms, which means our answer is still going to be in terms of n because we don't know what n is. We don't know what number term we're going to. So first things first, we've identified that T1 is 0 and our common difference is minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. So we're subtracting 2 each time, so our common difference is minus 2. We'll start with the most basic form, we don't know what our last term is, so we're not going to use the version that's got the last term in it. We're going to use this one, n outside of 2t1 plus n minus 1d divided by 2. So sum to n terms, we'll just bring this 2 and put it under the n over 2 outside of 2 times t1, which is 0, plus n minus 1 lots of negative 2. The n on 2 stays where it is. The 2 times 0 is 0. We distribute this minus 2 into the bracket to get minus 2n plus 2. And we can pull out a factor of 2 from the bracket. I'll leave that fraction there as it is, times 2 lots of minus n plus 1. Then these 2's will cancel and we're left with n outside of minus n plus 1, which is simply negative n squared plus n, or n minus n squared. Either of those last two are fine. And basically, if we're going to find the sum of this series, whatever term we want to find it to, that's what we substitute in. So for example, if we were going to find S10, it would be 10 minus 10 squared. 10 minus 100 is minus 90. If we were going to do the sum to 15, for example, it would be 15 minus 15 squared, which is 15 minus 225, which is going to be negative 210. Okay, so we can find the sum in very, very general terms, just in terms of n.